So here we go. CNN article about the bridge collapse. And oh, isn't that really convenient? Just as Biden was coming there to visit to push his infrastructure package through, because our infrastructure is being rusted out, a bridge collapses. So this is a perfect example. Um, but I'm sure the CNN article just describes how many deteriorating bridges America has. It describes that. Well, actually, the funny thing is, out of all the infrastructure, I think the Department of Civil Engineers rated all of infrastructure in America, and surprise, surprise, the best kept infrastructure are the private railroads. And also, this just reminds me exactly of like Los Angeles. Los Angeles has the highest taxes anywhere. It has the highest gas taxes. And you would think with all that taxes, at least the very basic notion, like let's say if you ever claim that you're libertarian and want to get rid of the government, it's always about the first thing that pops people's head is like, well, what about the roads? Who's going to build the roads? Okay, so if we have the government and their main job is to at least provide some police, well, that they're failing on that, but okay, what about the other one, the most basic thing of just pouring concrete and asphalt on the ground? Well, Los Angeles is riddled with potholes, just awful potholes everywhere, like the size of just craters. And as it turns out, the money that's been allocated for road maintenance, it's redirected to all sorts of green projects, are mostly just, I guess, metro projects that most people or a minority of people use those metros because it's unpractical. They have too many stops. The lines are not direct, so you might as well suffer and sit in traffic for an hour and 20 minutes than have a 2.5 hour metro ride with like a couple transfers. But obviously, CNN would never tell you that. CNN are just pushing the left's propaganda. But we have an interesting article here by American Thinker. And surprise, surprise, Pittsburgh Bridge's 2016 infrastructure funding reportedly diverted to bike lanes and green energy programs. Joe Biden and his Democrat allies wasted no time trying to make political hay out of the bridge collapse in Pittsburgh, a city Biden just arrived to discuss his infrastructure bill. The collapse happened just hours before President Biden traveled to the area to speak at a previously scheduled event about the $1 trillion infrastructure bill that he signed into law last year. Quote, "We have been so far behind in infrastructure for so many years, it's just mind-boggling," Mr. Biden told a group of elected officials and the first responders during a visit to the collapse site. "We used to be number one in the world." Earlier, Mayor Ed Gainey told reporters that collapse highlights the need for federal funding, with him coming today to talk about the infrastructure bill to discuss why this funding is so important. Today is significant, the mayor told reporters. But here it is. Only one problem. The bridge has already been to that infrastructure well earlier. Here's a rather amazing tweet from the Pittsburgh local. The bridge that just collapsed in the city of Pittsburgh was set to be restored in 2016. Instead of replacing the completely rusted out supports, they diverted the money to bike lanes, green energy programs, and lanes for self-driving cars, aka Ocasio's Green New Deal. Instead of repairing the bridge, that likely would have been the Obama-era shovel-ready 2009 infrastructure funds for roads and bridges, known as the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act. And that's what I hate about it. That's what the left, they have their pet projects. But of course, these new projects will not pass if you call them what it is. So they would just cloak everything as under infrastructure. Oh, you want welfare for people? Well, that's human infrastructure. The cash went to bike lanes and green boondoggles. And too bad about the actual structure that was decaying and deteriorating. Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg loves those bike lanes. Bridges that stay up, well, that's for someone else to take care of. So virtually every infrastructure bill has been like this. The Americans for Prosperity website has a history of these continuous infrastructure bills, all of which left of decaying infrastructure and a lot of greeny weeny whiz idiocies. 98, President Clinton Congress worked together on $217 billion transportation bill. Who can forget President George Bush's 2005 bill that included funding for the infamous Bridge to Nowhere? Obama's 2019 American Recovery and Reinvestment Act had $831 billion price tag. The Trump administration proposed or endorsed several costly infrastructure plans between 2015 and 2020. If President Biden's recent proposal gives you any deja vu, you're not alone. His promises sound familiar to us too. We know that California legislators and executives enjoy lying about spending for infrastructure investment too. Remember when they hoodwinked voters into approving a gas tax for infrastructure in 2019? Yep, same story. They didn't bother with the infrastructure such as roads and bridges. They set up a greeny playthings instead, wasted the cash as gas prices skyrocketed with all those added state taxes. And the thing is, those taxes just never go away. Even then, as an investment, supposedly the money is spent, the taxes are there forever. Now Biden is touting his infrastructure spending, while Democrats have previously tried to sell us on the idea of daycare as infrastructure, obviously, education as infrastructure, bike lanes as infrastructure. The only thing we could be sure of around such a bill as Biden's $1 trillion now passed infrastructure bill, as well as his presumably dead Build Back Better bill that he still wants to get through, is that the cash won't go towards infrastructure that matters. It will go to Democrat pet projects and wasteful boondoggles. Voters have seen this show before, so no one hopes that Pittsburgh people Biden will addressing and everyone else is going to be giving it the back of their hands. Yeah, same thing over and over again. I wonder, is it possible? Does any country in the world does it properly where certain money that's allocated actually gets used and the politicians don't have the discretion whether to siphon the money and do some other BS with it?